Young Sheldon keeps making George and Mary's story worse. While Young Sheldon Season 6 humanizing George Sr. might make the character more likable, this choice also makes the inevitable plot progression of the Big Bang Theory spin-off worse. As a spin-off of the Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon has written itself into a corner when it comes to Sheldon's father, George Sr. In the Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's father was generally viewed as a drunken philanderer by his son and widow, leading viewers to assume he was a fairly fundamentally flawed, self-centered character. However, Young Sheldon made the Big Bang Theory's saddest story more tragic when the show repeatedly proved that Sheldon had every reason to secretly look up to his father. Throughout Young Sheldon Season 6, George Sr. went above and beyond to help others, making his characterization in the Big Bang Theory jarring and discordant. In Young Sheldon Season 6, Episode 9, College Dropouts and the Medford Miracle, George Sr. even let Pastor Rob lead his team in prayer during a game as a favor to Coach Wilkins, a friend who George had already stuck his neck out to help earlier in Season 6, making George Sr. almost too decent. George Sr. has never been the terrible person that both Mary and Sheldon implied he was in the Big Bang Theory. But both of those characters were prone to hyperbole and fairly self-centered themselves. As such, Young Sheldon didn't need to change the Big Bang Theory's canon to make it believable for Sheldon and Mary to badmouth George Sr. while downplaying his good qualities. However, the disparity between the character described in the Big Bang Theory and the one depicted in Young Sheldon became harder to ignore in Season 6, Young Sheldon Season 6, Episode 6, An Ugly Car, an Affair, and Some Kick-Ass Football. George Sr. took in Coach Wilkins when his marriage fell apart, even though Wilkins was George Sr.'s replacement when he was fired as the high school football coach. George Sr. even refused to take back his old job unless the principal also promised to help Wilkins get back on his feet by splitting the job between them. This sort of selflessness makes George Sr.'s upcoming Young Sheldon death sadder, and this problem was exacerbated when College Dropouts and the Medford Miracle saw Wilkins bring Pastor Rob out at a football game. While Mary and Pastor Rob didn't consummate their affair, Mary did consider cheating on George Sr. with a young pastor, and George Sr. clearly doesn't like the preacher as a result. However, that is not the only reason that Sheldon's father might reasonably object to Pastor Rob's presence at his football game. The church fired Mary when Pastor Jeff discovered that Georgie got Mandy pregnant, and, while Pastor Rob didn't make this decision, he didn't stop it from happening, either. The church is Young Sheldon Season 6's real villain, which makes it more than reasonable for George Sr. to be dismayed upon seeing Pastor Rob at his game. While Wilkins might not have meant any harm by bringing along Pastor Rob, this plot still makes one of Mary's stories from the Big Bang Theory harder to swallow. Viewers know, thanks to the Bible-bashing version of the character seen in the earlier series, that Mary returns to the church with a vengeance sometime after she is effectively excommunicated by Pastor Jeff. The fact that George Sr. had to put on a smiling face and accept Pastor Rob into his workplace makes Mary's eventual reliance on the institution that ruined their shared lives a full-blown tragedy. Pastor Rob's role in Young Sheldon Season 6 could potentially make the George Sr. storyline more palatable. If Pastor Rob petitioned to have Mary forgiven and accepted back into the church, this could explain why she forgave the institution for abandoning her in her time of need. This could also make George Sr. more jealous and possessive, which could lead to his affair and prove that the character was not as saintly as he seems in Young Sheldon Season 6 so far. While Young Sheldon may not follow this exact plot, the Big Bang Theory spinoff must find a way to make George Sr. less unimpeachable before his death.